projection.
It's Taking It Down, the Alabama analytical, lack of pretension podcast about pop culture. I'm your host, Blaine Duncan, editor-in-chief of the Alabama Take. I'm always curious about why I like what I like and why I hate what I hate. Plus, I'm also an English teacher who's always looking to see how films, TV, books, and music are put together. It all stems from the fact that I was once a kid who grew up in front of a television set. Maybe deep down I'm still that kid, so you'll get all those combinations of me each week. That's not even mentioning my co-host. Rounding out the host with me always is an erudite musician with a penchant for some deep reading and a media specialist / film buff who has some encyclopedic knowledge on such a plethora of topics I can't begin to list all the interests. For this episode of Taking It Down, it's number 122, if you're keeping score. We want to take in the HBO season of Barry as a whole. What did Bill Hader and his cast have to say this year? Also on tap will be the latest on Obi-Wan Kenobi as that show begins its descent into finalizing its one, maybe only, season. We'll have Listener of the Week. At the tail end, we'll have brief Miss Marvel thoughts. We provide you with plenty of summer party conversations, or you can just count us as your summer party. And if so, I'm so sorry. You might want to look into therapy. You need somebody to talk to. But hey, speaking of therapy, here they are. On one side of me, it's the gentleman who can come to your home and demonstrate how to do a no-dig process of planting. It's Adam Morrow and Kodachrome Gardens.
For a small fee, I will come to your home and teach you about no-dig gardening. Yeah, we launched this week. I guess the pod will come out the same day as our pop-up, so not great timing. But we're going to be selling produce here, so if you're in the Shoals area, keep an eye out.
And if you are curious to what we're talking about, go to Instagram and follow Kodachrome Gardens. If it's a North Alabama garden, if that's what it looks like, then you're on the right page. The other part of Taking It Down, the other side of where I'm sitting, I think I can best describe this as a man who absolutely loves New England summers and Cape Cod. He can't resist. It's Mr. Donovan Reinwald is with us as always.
Great to be with you, Blaine.
Manchester by the Sea. Have you ever seen Manchester by the Sea? What a film, am I right?
It's like a carefree summer flick, right?
It's just a romp.
Yeah, beach shenanigans.
So did you know, this is something that will probably blow your mind. Manchester by the Sea, the real Manchester by the Sea, is by the sea.
Shit.
You can see the ocean and everything.
Sometimes we overthink things in life. Blaine, before we begin, I gotta say that this introduction of yours every week, that this is a lack of pretension podcast.
Yeah, because we're stupid.
Well, I've spent a lot of time trying to cultivate as much pretension in my life as possible. So you don't speak for me and Donovan. We're kind of enjoy being pretentious assholes.
So I'm packing up many things in my house right now, and I had a box break, books spill out.
Just that packing list proves that this is not a pretension-free, I have to guess.
And the words that came out of my mouth were, my NYRBs, as they spilled all over the floor.
That's funny as hell. But the lack of pretension stuff it's a really a nice way of saying, you do the whole resume writing, you figure out a nice way of saying some things. It's just a nice way of saying sometimes we don't know our shit.
Yeah, but we can still be pretentious even without knowing what we're talking about.
I think that's
that's true.
I've done it 122 times, apparently.
Our interests, I think, can be very pretentious, but this podcast is really, we don't know the Hollywood insider shit. That's really what I'm getting at. The pros who do it, they give you release dates and how much something's making in a box office, or this director shook hands with so-and-so last night. We don't.
Well, I hate them.
Or you get the NPR pop culture podcast who insist on mentioning every liberal checkbox that you have. It's like, just review the fucking film. You don't have to go through the checklist.
Yeah, I have noticed that.
But it's like Glenn will. Okay, I'm not going to get on this. Let's go to Done Up Real Good, Listener of the Week. We do it every week. This is where we start. This week it's Ty Edmondson. Why? I know he's listening, sirs, because he recently commented to us online, I think it was, that we should be talking about HBO's Barry. So he's obsessed with it, I think, according to him. Here you go. Listener of the Week.
This is a good week for him then.
Yeah, that's all you got to do is comment on us, and you win.
All you got to do is comment. We'll probably talk about what you want us to talk about.
And the famous Simpsons line, I gave that guy directions last week, even though I didn't know the way. Just comment and we'll talk about it. Pretentiously.
See, that's us. That Simpsons line probably summarizes us, this podcast anyway. Donovan, you and I are really big fans of the HBO show Barry, about the hired hitman played by Bill Hader I mentioned earlier, and his attempt to turn from murderer to actor. Very similar professions, seems like.
He's moving seamlessly between them. And that's my review of Barry.
We'll be discussing the overall season, so if you're a listener who hasn't watched all of this most recent season that just ended, I suppose you'll want to catch up. It's worth it. If you need anything that's spoiler free, it's so worth it. It may be getting better. We'll talk about that. So use the timestamps as needed, and we'll start diving right in. And spoilers begin now for Barry.
The first time we talked about this, I was just saying, insert actor's name here, did such a good job. That was so cool. And I feel like the whole season I could just keep doing that, because all of the principal actors were great.
What it did was, every time I'd see an actor, take Stephen Root, for example, I'd say, damn, I want to watch everything Stephen Root's in now.
Yes.
I just want to go through his IMDb page and just play all that. But it's one of the most amazing aspects of the show is that it's a comedy, and it has got as many LOL moments as I've had this year watching TV.
You know, I was thinking about that because it makes you laugh, right? But also it's so good at, and I think especially this season was dark. Like, it was really dark. And yet I was, like, there's a ton of moments where, like, you can just mention something and I'll start laughing.
For example, I can't imagine characters explaining things in a show better than to do it with Mitch, the beignet chef owner. Hader directed that episode that I'm mentioning. I think it was the third to last or second to last.
That was the penultimate one, yeah.
Okay, he got everything out of that guy. He got everything and nothing out of this guy. It was a perfect simultaneous comment on the show being serious and hilarious, just having that guy stand there and let other characters talk to him, and you get a little background info as needed. You didn't need a lot, and then you get him responding to it. It's not a good summation of the show, but the character of Mitch is so good, and you and I texted one another and said, we hope he comes back.
It's not like this is what the show is, but I think you're right, and like, this is the kind of jokes that the show has, where it'll kind of come and surprise you like that.
And honestly, it wasn't until the second time I saw Mitch on screen I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. It took a full course of Mitch before I was digesting him. Which reminds me that NoHo Hank, one of the greatest characters of all time in television, believes you can stop someone with red flags by saying, hey, no more red flags. So you think I should just go see him and say, hey, no more red flags. Yeah, that's it.
Like, NoHo Hank this season, I think it's the funniest he's been. Even just like joke in the second to last episode with where the guy's slowly assembling a blow gun.
Oh my God.
And he goes, yeah, that's what I thought you were doing.
The guy builds a dart gun, and we get Anthony Carrigan, the actor. His response to this is so great. He just sits there and watches him. Then he gets hit with the dart in the side of the neck, and he goes, yeah, that's what I thought you were going to do. I didn't want to be rude. So there's two things happening there. One, perfect character reaction. Two, perfect actor selling it, because no one else could probably do that. There are a few other actors. Bill Hader probably could have, but no one else could give you that performance and just make you go, oh my God, I want to watch this scene 3 or 4 times just because that's funny.
He's been hilarious. this season. But he's also had some really like tender moments. Like he's
had some pathos.
I think
man.
this is that's what has made. Well, he's always been one of my favorite characters because I think he's one of everyone's favorite characters.
Yeah, let's put a stamp on it and say that Noah Hanks one of the best characters on TV created in the last 3
I'd
years.
agree with that.
Would you with me?
Yeah.
I think so too. This 6th episode that we're referencing currently, I assume. Look, Barry does this so well. Bill Hader, his team of writers, Alex Berg, yeah, they do this so well where they're taking a trope and they kind of sort of let it come to fruition. And the trope I'm talking about is all the bad guys are building up on the protagonist, which in this case it's not bad guys, it's good guys, honestly. So that's already flipped on its head. Then you get they're going to build up and maybe even all meet in one spot like some superhero movie, and Barry's got to fend for himself against them all. And they take that idea, use it, flip it around, twist it, blend it.
Another thing that I thought was there were a couple standout episodes with Bill Hader directing.
My God. Give him a movie.
Yeah.
Give him something, and he's going to direct every episode of the next season, which sounds like a final season kind of thing.
Yes, it does.
But you were saying?
Well, just even stuff like the unless I'm completely misremembering, the motorcycle chase scene is probably
go with it, man, because
one of the standout that has got to be my favorite just directing moment since the episode with the weird karate kid, which is season 2 or 3.
Oh, okay, you're going back.
I'm going back a little there.
You know what's incredible about that scene? And I'm gonna go ahead and give Bill Hader credit because he was the director of it. Something that stood out to me that was kind of nerdy thing, the sound design of that long extended chase scene where he jumps on a motorbike and gets on the freeway. It was like comparable to a Star Wars in a theater, and I was just watching it on a TV, and I was like, "This sounds kind of scary." Like
it was stressing me out in a good way.
Okay, good. I don't want to be super nerdy. We talk about the lack of pretension thing, but I seriously, the sound by itself was a little stressful.
Yeah.
If you would have put a black screen up and played that, I was just like, Jesus Christ, you're going to get hit by a car. And then that episode ends. It was basically Grand Theft Auto in television movie format.
Yeah.
You jump on the bike and you have to go to the freeway, and yes. Bombastic, ridiculous, dare I say stupid, but perfect. Flawless. It's just great.
This season 2, it's been really interesting because the filmmaking has been excellent. And what the filmmaking has been emphasizing has been just kind of Barry falling apart and everything around him falling apart. And dare I even say, like, his and other characters, maybe this may not be the right word, but it's the word that that popped into my head when I saw the episode, the kind of toxic masculinity of the world that he's in. Both.
I think that works, and it's a weird it's one I haven't thought of, and it's kind of a weird phrase. I'm going to agree with you. And the reason why I'm tentative on agreeing is that Bill Hader does not display, he's not the actor you put in a role to have a toxic masculinity. But now that you mention it, it's not necessarily him, it's his reactions, how he's been trained in life to respond.
That's why I wasn't not quite sure if that was the right word to use, but him and Fuchs coming back into his life in the way that he does, and even some of the jokes, like with a lot of the stuff in the, I wanted to say movie, but the TV show Joplin that they're working on.
Yes, Joplin.
There's a lot of like, I don't want to get fired because, you know, after Barry yells at Sally, there's a lot of I don't want to get fired.
Yeah, that's early in the season where he yells at her, which gets replayed in a way because Sally does
Yes.
pretty much the same thing to her former assistant in a scary kind of way. Not, I guess scary is not quite there, in a disturbing kind of way.
It's kind of an aggressive scene. You get the great joke with her coming in and saying, "You know how you said you could break into someone's house and scare them a little bit?
Could you do that for me?
Which is what...
That's why I broke up with you, you know, 5 days ago. But here, I need you to do.
Which is what I'm thinking with everything kind of coming apart. And see, I don't know if toxic masculinity is quite the right word. It is.
It borders on that.
But even...
Well, can I substitute something? It's this American response to respond to things with violence.
Ooh.
So maybe not even masculinity per se, but just an American. I don't know that this show could be set in Canada or England with English people. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I think you're onto something. Yeah.
I'm thinking about the way that it parallels, you know, Barry's hitman job with his Hollywood job. And Sally's Hollywood job. Man, we haven't even mentioned how great Henry Winkler has been this season.
The man's on a roll.
He's had to do a little bit of everything, and his acting masterclass, I think, has been one of the funniest things I've seen. As he's introducing him, you know, and he's going, "Let me show you some of my favorite masks," and he does terrible renditions of Shakespeare and Streetcar Named Desire, and it's all just, it's great. He's had to go from, I really, really love watching good actors play bad actors.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. That is truly one of my favorite things. I'm with you.
And he does a great job at that. And
Oh, so good. They all do. All of the people who are on this show who are playing quote unquote actors are bad. Pretty bad. Sally seems to be getting like better, but
Sally is the only one who's good.
So I'll just check off some things I thought were great.
Yeah.
Because we really want to get into that finale a little. Just a super lovely, well thought out juxtaposition to have Barry be poisoned in this bright, sunny atmosphere. That's the kind of thing that throws you off as a viewer. Because he's poisoned. You know, he could have been shot down at night with a gun or whatever, and you would expect it-ish. A great sense of knowing the characters you're writing for happens over and over. One example, Monroe Fuchs asked the former pilot who was shot down, right? This is Janice's dad, and, you know, they're in the car together, and instead of focusing on what Janice's dad is talking about, he just keeps wanting to say, well, how did you get the guy to kill himself? Maybe he was having a bad day. You know, that's exactly what Monroe Fuchs would want to know more about rather than anything else.
That was a brilliantly written and acted scene.
Oh, Stephen Root, man. He's so funny. I think we've come today to a conclusion on one question I was really having about the show, which was, I was going to ask you, does the gun violence strike a chord with you one way or the other? Do you do you find it absurd? Do you find it disturbing? But if we're going to run with the thematic idea that this is almost a comment on America's response to everything with violence, then I think it's fitting.
It is fitting, and I do find it disturbing. And I think I find it even more disturbing because, especially for Barry, it's explicitly tied to his military service. I don't think it beats you over the head with it, but it comments on what are the consequences of things we as Americans have done. This is not a Swedish crime show.
Nope. It bravely takes It's Always Sunny approach to levels of how much do you want to root for a despicable person.
Yeah. They really do a good job of making you feel like, especially Barry, is someone who's not irredeemable.
No, he's not anymore.
No.
He's not. And I thought that they might try to do that like a season ago. I was thinking they might try to redeem him somehow. There's just no way. There's a piece on The Atlantic that talks about how this show is no longer a comedy. And the finale seemed to put an exclamation mark on that idea.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought, because I was thinking as I was watching the finale, there were funny moments in the finale, but it was probably the least comedic episode of the season.
Yeah, I didn't laugh during the finale. I know you said you did, and I've seen other people say that they have. I did not. There were like at least 2 moments where I was adjacent to being scared. Definitely, quote unquote, worried for the characters.
Yeah.
The example of the dancing man, with Cristobal being tortured and NoHo Hanks seeing it from a distance, and you only see this Slender Man version of the dancer. That was creepy, dude.
That was
just creepy.
Now, what was the other one?
It wasn't so much as being scared. It was just Sally going back to Joplin to get way away from Barry was just like...
Yeah.
It was kind of anxiety-inducing, perhaps.
Yeah.
Like, golly, she's got to go. She's got to leave L.A. now because of the law and because of Barry.
Yeah, because Barry is, despite being our protagonist, he's a scary guy. The last episode of the season was... Or the last episode of the season. There's a word for that. It's finale. The finale...
Good for you.
...was kind of about that. There's even a point where Barry says, I know where I'm going when I die, and I don't want you to go there.
What an intense statement.
Yeah. He's completely comfortable using a gun to solve a problem. And it's complicated by the fact that, he thinks it's for his mentor that he's helping out. But that's part of what makes him scary, is by doing what he thinks is the empathetic thing or the right thing. He's I don't even know I don't think you can say that he's an ends justify the means guy, because that's just like his default response.
That's it exactly. Him saying, I know where I'm going when I die, and I don't want you to go there. There's this implicit idea that I'm okay kind of with what I've done, or there's no changing what I've done. And what a mirror for America right now to say, I know what we've done, and I'm not really going to work on changing that.
Just that kind of resignation.
Yep, exactly. Some other things that this show, Hader and his writers did that was nice. The having Barry prostrated on the ground in that shot of he and his military buddy in their huge distance. Usually in those kinds of shots, I've noted that one of the characters will pull out the gun and shoot them from that distance, and that's how they get around with some violence.
Yeah.
Not this time. It was more of a savior-ish moment.
Yeah.
Bill Hader directed the finale. He's directing himself, and he's tasked himself in showing some devastating heartbreak when he sees Gene has had a hand in his demise.
That was...
Both of them doing a lot with only, 3 seconds of screen time?
Between Gene pretending like he's going to go pretending that he's going to murder Janice's dad, and then Barry's realization that he's been tricked. Both of them doing it's all in the, acting that's all in body language and facial expressions and stuff like that. I noticed this, you were mentioning the writers too, and I noticed that it seemed that this season, and I don't know if this is true for other seasons, but there were a lot of women credited writing the episodes, which I thought was interesting, especially based on what they were commenting on.
Yeah, Sally becoming more aggressive and more violent. The choking scene in the finale, she specifically asks to be choked in an acting class much earlier because she needs that to be recreated to try to get out a particular response, because that's what happened to her in Joplin.
Yeah.
I might be using the word shot wrong. I might be talking a little bit more composition. But how the show ended its entire season, correct me if I'm wrong, was by Jean and Jim being separated by the window, and then there's a picture of Janice down in the bottom right-hand corner. That felt full-on drama turn than comedy. Was that telling, their separation? Usually when you have a shot like that, there's something telling in how you're going to put two dividers or one divider between the characters. Is that a hint for next season? Hard to say, I guess, but...
I think, partially it's just representing the break that's happening right there, right now. I noticed that, the episode title for this one is what he says, the last words that he says at the end of season 1.
And he says a couple times.
Yeah.
Starting now.
So I'm kind of wondering if they're signaling that we're going to a different place in the show. Catch. Starting now.
Good catch. You have to think if the show continues in this vein, it's going to be pointing fingers at its audience and how it consumes killer shows, murder shows, violent shows, or maybe just saying something about fucking up badly and getting second, third, and fourth chances. There's a couple things happening, which is why it's a good show. How much are you giving the show room to not be funny, if that's the case, next season?
I think I'm invested enough that I want to see what's going to happen to these characters. Because there were moments this season where I was invested, like with NoHo Hank and Cristobal being separated. There were moments there that just weren't funny. I wanted to see what happened.
Will this be the first show of its caliber to take such a turn in genre? This would be like if season 4 of Cheers decided to become a serious drama for 22 minutes.
Right. That's a good question, because I think everything that I can think of that's comparable to it has always kind of had that balance between being funny and being dark. I'm thinking of something like The Sopranos, which is funny all the way through, but it's dark all the way through, too. I don't know if it ever... Well, you could probably argue that towards the end, The Sopranos made the switch to being more dark than funny, but...
Yes, it did.
But I'm not sure that something it started out as so much more of a pure comedy.
Good point, yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen something that do that.
That's a fair point. I'll leave you with this one to comment on before we take a break, and that's, is it me or is Barry examining what most people would say is the greatest show ever, Breaking Bad, and saying, you guys watched that one wrong?
That's an interesting thought.
Or at least use that idea.
Now, why
did I say that? Because,
why do you say that?
I mean, even up until the end, I was guilty of pulling for Walter White when I shouldn't have been.
I gotcha.
Had he been a real-life person, of course I wouldn't have. But I've been trained as a viewer to pull for the protagonist, and Barry is really taking that, it's using that idea of, which you can see in other shows. It's using the anti-hero idea a lot.
I was going to say, I think that's, now that I see your reasoning, I think that's even more than just Breaking Bad. I think that's a lot of shows where you have, to go back to The Sopranos, I forget who coined it, but someone coined the term bad fans.
It was Emily Nussbaum.
Was that Emily Nussbaum? Okay.
I think it's her.
I thought it was her, but I wasn't sure.
I really do think it's her, and I've quoted her before on here, and she's great.
Yeah, she is great, and she does a really good job of wrestling with these shows are great, but there are so many people who watch them just for the killing.
Right. Yes, that's a horrible fan, and then she gets into bad fan would be maybe pulling for that protagonist, even though he's not a good guy. That's which is where I was. I don't know if she would call that straight up and down bad. She would probably just say, give it more thought or something. I don't know. Interesting.
So, are you?
We'll have her on the show.
Yeah. Are you pulling for Barry? Are you hoping that he gets out of this predicament?
The thing is, I'm not, but Bill Hader's so hard to root against.
Yeah.
The actor, Bill Hader, I just like,
Yeah.
that guy's so lovable. So you have to separate what you know about Bill Hader and seeing him in interviews and then the character. And it's tough.
Yeah.
That requires thought, and we as Americans don't like to give thought to our entertainment.
Yeah.
Which is an entirely different thing. Well, no, I don't know if it's indifferent, but that's one of the things we're reckoning with.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a break. We'll leave our listeners with that if you made it that far. Guys, can you see what I'm wearing? Can you tell the audience what I'm wearing?
It says Taking It Down, and it's an old-style television set, and I bet there's only 3 channels, and you've chosen to tune to one of those 3 channels that says Taking It Down.
Man, yeah, you can get one of these t-shirts for yourself at our website by going to thealabamatate.com, clicking on shop, and you can get a t-shirt with any of our shows. I can vouch for it. It's comfortable, really nice. One of those old school kind of vintage. I specifically selected that when I shopped for it, when I did the drop-down box and clicked my size, and then I could pick my color. You can do the same. Go shop around. You can get a mug, you can get whatever. We also, in our break, want to tell you the goings on of our home site, which I just mentioned. First, we're not exclusive. If you have an idea for writing, podcasting, producing, any sort of creative endeavor, hit us up. Email us, thealabamatate@gmail.com, or just say hello to us if you'd like. Our newest podcast, Alabama Slam, is not going to be the newest one for long. It's really getting into its groove. That's Corey Hanna and Patrick Akers analyzing the world of wrestling, particularly AEW, though they go beyond that. Plus, you get the insight of Patrick Akers, as he is a former indie wrestler himself. Why listen to anyone else? Another podcast that we have, This Song Sucks, where 3 musician friends dissect what's wrong with a specific song, is going to debut at the end of June. We are thinking might be July. Be on the lookout, though. We'll keep you updated, okay? Subscribe to our YouTube channel because all of the podcasts are going to be there. That's our goal. We're working on that as well. It's just, it's a visual medium, so why don't we do that? How about June 24th? The 2nd season of our interview show, Short Takes, will appear there. And then you'll get one for several weeks every Friday morning, an episode. But you can watch it on the site as well, YouTube or the site, either one. We've got several new staff members and a couple more headed your way soon. You know what? Hopefully you've been seeing their writing because they're getting good, bright young minds on topics from Netflix documentaries to how society's failed Paris Hilton and Britney Spears. If you'd like to know when these are released, so you don't have to constantly click back and forth, follow us on one or all of these media sites. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. TikTok's less reliable, but we'll do something there every now and again. I encourage you to do that, and then you can know when something's new to the site and go have a look at it or save it to read later. And if you've noticed, on Mondays, we've got Monday Meets. What's that? Introduce you to our staff. Since our staff is beautiful and growing, we'll do Monday Meets on social media. We get to know our folks. Let's get back into our second segment. Okay, everybody, we're back. We're talking Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's the... Do I have to set this up? It's Disney Plus. It's Star Wars. You know, we've kept up with this series regularly. Does that surprise either of you that we've ended up talking about this week to week? Did you think we would? Did you think it would be worth that?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, Ewan McGregor signing on to do this and then knowing maybe the caliber of folks behind it. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all.
We're talking the penultimate episode, episode 5. If you haven't watched it, don't be spoiled. We will talk about it. First thing I'll say is, this was the episode that convinced me it should have been a really tight 2-hour film. They tried to have a twist with the third sis, Reva. You know, her being a former youngling would have been fine and is fine to me. Everybody kind of predicted that. But if you put that in a film, as long as no one's going online and spoiling it, that's a little bit of a better moment.
It's
a good point.
More impactful.
Yeah, you don't have weeks to think it over, and it becomes more and more clear where it's going every time. Yeah, that's a good point.
Parts of it kind of didn't make sense. Like, if Darth Vader knew that she was a traitor the whole time, then why did he even mess with her?
I guess to have her do the footwork of finding Obi-Wan.
I guess so.
I thought that was kind of a good illustration of, because they did, I've said on the program more than once that give me some of that Jedi mysticism bullshit and I will just lap it up. Him being on the dark side, being a bad guy, yet still being kind of like zen about, I'm going to use this person. I know that I can't control them, but I can allow things to play out to my advantage by keeping them around. It's kind of like the twisted side of how you would think Obi-Wan would view people.
Okay, I buy that. When initially seeing it, I was like, "This is dumb. Why didn't Vader just get rid of her right away?" But
and it also shows, especially in an episode that was so about them playing layered chess game with each other based on knowing each other so well and past experience, it kind of shows growth, right? That he didn't have to, in like a Darth Vader becomes even scarier than he was before as like a twisted version of Anakin, because now he realizes he doesn't have to control everything. He can kind of like facilitate. I don't know. I thought that was a nice touch.
Okay.
The part I am not sold on is how bad her plan is. Vader being, pretty aware of it and letting it follow through is, I think I didn't have a problem with that as much as I just thought. I had a lot of problem with.
It did give him a chance to just totally flex on how, and kind of reflecting on the what Obi-Wan says about you don't always have to have a weapon to fight. Like, obviously he wasn't being as literal as Vader then made that statement with his just like destroying her with her own weapon kind of thing, but that was pretty impressive. We've talked about fire, early on fire stopped Darth Vader from getting to Obi-Wan, and you're like, what is this? Come on. But he really got to be the big bad in that final scene this week.
Oh man.
Oh, him when he stopped the transport was some oh shit level surprise for me.
That was cool.
I really did react. I guess physically, I might have leaned forward in my chair. That was cool. Really, that's why we're watching it. That's. I would say that the fight choreography though did bother me a little. Vader versus Reva. I really felt like I was watching an actor in a costume moving around, and that's okay for like a split second. Why did I feel so taken out of the fight between them other than the occasional cool shit?
Huh.
I guess because I'm not used to Vader moving so fluidly, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Rogue One, he didn't move like a dancer.
Yeah, it's a good point.
He just killed. Here, he was doing it without a sword. I don't know, he almost looked not stiff enough.
I could see that. That makes sense.
Like he's not the robot man that we've gotten used to.
A little bit. In Star Wars: A New Hope, he's old.
Is he old? I guess he's...
He sure as hell looks old in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, he's 10 years younger than Obi-Wan, less than 10 years. What's the age gap there supposed to be?
That's a good question. Star Wars fans, please write us.
Yeah, we should...
Because that's the fan base you want writing you.
Obi-Wan looked pretty good in this episode, fight-wise. We've talked about in relation to the show, kind of the idea that you imagine when we only had the first 3 films, you kind of have to imagine what the Jedi would be like in the wild. You know what I mean? Like, we'll just throw one Jedi out there and they would take down all these stormtroopers, and like, there he is, standing in the door, getting everyone to safety and deflecting every shot, slaughtering all these stormtroopers. It's great. I loved it.
It was great.
It honestly made me question, like, when they sent just 2 transports down, like, what are they doing?
Yeah, there is some element of, like, the strongest good guy and the strongest bad guy are, like, fighting each other in this kind of proxy war that's been going on. Yet, does anyone around them realize the magnitude of how powerful they are?
Yeah.
They need to wake up. I am critical of having to use another flashback in a episode of Flashbacks to reveal Reva's motives. we know what happens. Why not just let the actress carry the weight of that moment rather than having to show her as a kid on things we've already seen? There's nothing new revealed in that. You know, you get young Anakin Hayden Christensen walking in again, his hood, same exact position as it was in the prequel trilogies. I mean, there's nothing new there. You don't even see him slaughter any more than he does in those prequel trilogies. That felt like a misstep. Adam's helping selling me on a few more things, but I don't know. That one's not so hot.
I agree that it doesn't need as much, but there was one shot that I thought was really nice where they're on her face in modern times, third sister, and it flashes back, and they have framed her as a young lady in the exact same way, and she's got the helmet on. If they had only flashed that back and like her face lit up blue from the light, it's something like kind of just like real quick hit like that would have been enough to scratch that itch, instead of even some of the cinematography choices in the flashback were kind of like, it's been such a well shot show, why are you making these like weird jump cuts and weird zooms kind of choice.
It felt as though they didn't have faith in the actress.
And she was great in this episode, I thought.
I think she's been great pretty much throughout the whole thing.
Which is why I think they should have just relied on her.
Yeah, I agree.
Didn't seem to want to do that. But no, the flashbacks of Anakin versus Obi-Wan, that really was purposeful. That's we get something a little new between the two, and it also is a nice framing device for what's happening in quote-unquote modern day, as you was talking about.
I dug it. Are they using special lightsabers in that scene that can't actually hurt each other? What's going on there?
I was wondering about that.
Because they're the wrong color, right? They're not both blue, are they?
I think they were both blue.
When did Okay.
So, Jedi training isn't great. There are no Jedi lawyers, right? Like you lose your eye.
Well, they just replace it.
I guess so.
I mean, you can apparently a stormtrooper takes the lightsaber through the abdomen earlier in the episode, and he's just immediately dead. There's quite a lot of dialogue left if you're a Jedi and you get or Force aware and you get the lightsaber through the chest.
I guess some of these guys have Force healing powers or whatever.
Grand Inquisitor is back.
Yep.
The original Grand Inquisitor.
Just a lot of questions.
I think, based on something I read, that I think he's still around for one of the animated shows. Now I'm kind of wishing I watched the animated shows.
No, we mentioned that here. That's right. And there was complaints online about how there's no way he could die. That's not true to this and that. Still no Jar Jar Binks, though. You guys...
What this series presupposes.
I have what I feel like are valid gripes about this episode, but I also found it truly entertaining.
How's our baby Layla Meter doing? Was she good this episode? Was she annoying this episode?
No, she's fine.
She was fine for me too.
I thought she's been great the whole time. That's a tall ask to have a kid have that much charisma, like knowing who they're gonna become, and to lay. I mean, we've talked a lot about how much more meaningful her relationship with Obi-Wan is in A New Hope now because of this show. But she's really selling it as a little actress.
Just to be clear, what are we seeing in that final bit where we see Luke sleeping and Obi-Wan has an what's happening there? Does he's afraid that Vader's going to piece together that Luke's alive or a person or something?
We're learning that Bail Organa has just like a terrible grasp of security. He's already gone to Tatooine once. But wasn't it...
Well, maybe it's Obi-Wan with two-factor he needs to get the two-factor thing. You can't just pull up the message.
Wasn't it Third Sister who found the message?
Yes.
I'm assuming that the fear is that you're going to figure out something. Luke's on Tatooine, that these are Vader's kids, something like that. But because it's Third Sister, we don't know how that's going to play out.
Joel Edgerton did not get much screen time. They're probably bound to go back to Tatooine, I guess, is what...
I mean, contractually, Disney has to shoot on Tatooine. It's a tax break thing.
I was kind of hoping that we were going to get, like, here's Leia, and, like, she's a pretty smart and plucky kid, and the one thing we see of Luke is him acting like a dumbass pretending to fly a spaceship.
That would be great.
Let's do a very quick, if we can manage, check-in with Miss Marvel. We're going to ask that Natalie join us.
Hi.
All right, very happy to have Natalie with us. So, Miss Marvel, second episode, really quick. What'd you think about it?
You don't seem happy about it.
I was not happy.
Why?
This one gave me the exact vibes that the Netflix shows did in their 3rd through 8th episodes. Big SAG energy. Despite having some originality to Kamala saving the boy there and not really becoming... She's trying to grasp her powers, and she wasn't excellent at using them right now. The boy still kind of sort of ish got hurt. Not bad.
I mean, it wasn't as good as episode 1, but that's fine. I mean, we have to build up at some point, you know. I thought it was good, like, laying a layer of, we have story to go forward. You know, it's going somewhere, and I'm excited to watch it go.
I got you.
No, you don't.
No, I don't. I'm not sold. They're obviously going to do things. They're going to go places, but...
Enough has been brought up in episode 2 to get... I mean, you should be like, okay, I'm looking for it. What are they going to do with whoever's looking for the people that are hunting down the superheroes to try and get them to do the things? What's going to happen there? What's going to happen with great-grandma? What's happening with... Is the boy actually her cousin? Because now it seems like maybe they are related. Just a lot of things are going on. Plus, we still have the really great family dynamic, and I just think you need to get over it and enjoy it. So.
I can't go by the comics. Are you familiar with Miss Marvel, the written?
Yeah.
Is Bruno in it?
Yes. Yeah.
I was actually happy that the love interest wasn't Bruno.
Yeah.
It was just true. It was spelled out for me as soon as the good-looking young guy shows up that he had ulterior motives.
Sure.
That seemed really obvious. I guess that's one of my big complaints.
Are you just always looking for it to be overcomplicated?
No, I just felt I was just a little bored.
Oh, okay.
The running for the mosque board chair, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in that.
I get that.
Her practicing was really cool, I thought. Her practicing the powers with Bruno was good. And when the young man who's a love interest, he mentions they're talking to Bollywood.
Mm-hmm.
Did you pick up on that was the Eternal who was played by Kamal Nanjiani that they're talking about?
Oh, I did not pick up on that because I don't remember anything about the Eternals. But that makes sense. That's great. It's interesting that last week you had made a comment about wondering if they were going to play into this experience as like Muslim American, what that experience is like. And then you said not interested in the story of the girl running for the board in the mosque.
Oh, because it's not Kamala Khan. If it was her running,
Gotcha.
I would be like, yes, give me or any one of her family whom I adore. I was just really interested in having these superhero dynamics play out in ways that we know Americans can be. You know, that kind of stuff would be. And then just seeing how that plays out and gets resolved or doesn't get resolved would be very enticing.
I don't know. I'm in, and I think you should stick with it.
Oh, I will. For sure. In fact, we might even, seeing where it goes and how time works out, we may talk about it more next week. Because it's one episode. It's a little slower, I guess.
This is a you problem.
It's a me problem. I haven't read any reviews for Miss Marvel. You said you had, though, and that critics were not into it?
I didn't really. I read a few. Well, I just kind of like glanced through a few when the first episode came out, and then have since been ignoring them because I don't need to hear how
because they spoil
middle-aged
shit.
white. Well, and a bunch of middle-aged white dudes. Not to call out present company here, reviewing a show. Maybe not their scene to comment on. So I've not been digging into those this time.
That's all I got.
I got nothing to add.
Natalie loves it still. I'm still a fan. I'm still going to watch it. We might return to more from Miss Marvel. Let's outro this thing. Let's say goodbye until next week. That'll do it. Subscribe to us, rate us, review us. What are we going to talk about next week? We don't know yet. Follow us on social media. We'll give you a couple days heads up. Adios.